Right, you're going to love this intro.
Okay, good.
Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a narcissistic waste of billable hours that is measurably reducing the quality of life for our partners. Because we can't buy them shiny things so much anymore.
Or help them on their projects that they're launching.
So tough, because this is what we want to do. My name is Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
Hey, what, off Twitter?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. Have you seen my new response to people this week?
No.
Because Ivanka Trump's been in London, hasn't she?
Is she actually with... Oh, God, it makes me ill.
He's brought all his grown-up children with him. Four of them.
It's gross.
Four children. 4 grown-up children.
Well, they're the only ones
family outing.
that are in the government anymore, aren't they? Everyone else is gone.
That's true.
But what's your response?
Hi, I'm not that Ivanka, but I do have a podcast that you might enjoy. grandpodcast.com.
Okay.
Why not?
Can we measure traffic? We should start trying to figure out how to. You could put something in the URL and see how many of those are driving traffic to us.
True.
This is me now.
Go on.
Marketing analytics. This is going to be my life now. I like graphs. That's fine. Shall I tell you what we're going to talk about this week?
Tell us.
We're going to talk about how to make a hard decision. How to do something how to come to a difficult decision and take an action.
That's really hard.
Because we've all got, it takes a while for that. Sometimes, you suspect you've got to do something, but you can't even think about it for a while. And then, so I've just on podcast come through a few weeks of sort of coming to a point where I've had to go, right, it's time. And I made an important decision this week and acted on it. And we'll talk about that in the episode. So, shall we? What hard decision might we be referencing? I mean, I haven't said what mine is, but I just want to. This is I'm colouring in the timeline. It's I need some Michael, some Ivanka, some Michael, some Ivanka. If it's too much Michael. It's too much Michael. So I just
too much Michael.
Say something, Ivanka.
I'd like to say that making hard decisions is really hard.
Right.
No, it's not. It's not about making the decision. It's about taking the action, I think.
Right.
And are the two possibly separate things?
Yeah.
There's the accepting or knowing that you need to do a thing and then actually doing it. And I don't actually know what part of it is the decision. Is it the action or is it the acceptance? Or is decision action plus acceptance or something?
There's a lot of acts. And so this is sub-top headlines for me then. There's procrastination, there's fear and fear setting. Yeah. I might just talk about that a bit more. And I think that it comes out of, there's just kind of understanding that something needs to change. And I think my happiness app has certainly helped me do that in the past. And I've sort of started using it again recently. And I think there's different ways you can realise that things aren't right, or just simply it's when the bad starts outweighing the good, you got to change something, ain't you? That's what a Cockney once said to me. When the bad's more than the good, you got to go. And I was like, okay, I mean, sure. How's it going? Croatian Ivanka?
It's going... I'd say it's going very well. I'm thoroughly enjoying my new existence on my Croatian island. The weather has not been, as discussed previously, perhaps. The weather's not been what it should be, but the sun has come out now. And that hasn't stopped us being outdoors. It's just very different. I've grown tomatoes. I made jam out of the loquats.
How long does it take to grow tomatoes?
I don't know, a few weeks.
A few weeks. So it's doable. And you made jam.
I made jam out of the famous loquats.
Are they not? Are you sure it's not marmalade?
No, it's jam because they're a fruit, not a citrus.
not a citrus
I still don't
fruit.
know what the definition is of marmalade. I don't really care. It turned out I did use Lily's book.
Right.
But I think I made it. But I got fed up of picking them and peeling them, so I didn't have quite the amount. So I guessed, and it's turned out a bit runny.
Ivanka's talking about Lily O'Brien, who runs the London Borough of Jam, which is just a good name, isn't it? So there's a little plug, unsponsored.
And though we'll send her a link to us later. So I made my jam. It was loquats, a fruit that I'd never heard of before I bought this house. Very tasty jam, delicate flavour, a little bit apricot-y. Very good jam. That's that story.
That's good.
Yep.
Cool. Your room sounds, you're a bit less echoey than you have been in this room.
Yes. I've not done any proper sound treatment. What I've done is taken the sound treatment foam and sort of piled it on behind my laptop.
It's the best thing to do.
So we'll see. That might be the best approach. Because it's also black and ugly. I was trying to work out how to make some wall art out of it. So I've got some cloth to cover it. But then I don't know if that'll ruin the sound waves.
Do you know who's got a studio that looks quite pretty is Andrew Huang? And I feel like he's spelling Andrew Wong Huang, so I think it's actually Andrew Wong. But he's got a YouTube channel. He's probably got the most popular YouTube channel of the kind I am doing, and actually gets millions of views on things. So, but he sort of does production tips and shows funny musical instruments and then sings a song at the end. It is quite professional with it all, but he has a selection of different sort of hairy rugs and sort of this white acoustic treatment that all looks very clean and pretty. So maybe have a look at his videos and see if there's any inspiration there.
I think that the objective of the name of the game is to stop the sound bouncing.
Yes.
So I think we can achieve that in multiple ways.
Yes.
That's but what's been happening is that we've been moving in and settling in and creating a new garagey thing. That's been project number one. And I've been out on my electric bicycle. I could do a whole episode about my electric bicycle and how much I love it. I love it a lot.
Do you know, because I went on a lime bike, speaking of citrus fruits, the other day, and because I got a flat tyre on my proper bike, so I got on this lime bike and it's like power assisted start.
Yeah,
and
that's
I was like,
what this is.
Oh, there's no price to starting and stopping. So it's quite addictive, isn't it?
It is. It's lovely. It's like, so basically the shops, to get to the bigger shops, it's about 9 kilometres-ish. And there's ups and downs and potholes and what have you. And it's just like, instead of it being like a workout, you can go to the shops, load up your bike with all your shopping and come home. And yes, your heart rate went up and you had some exercise, but you don't feel like you've been down the gym. You just had a nice little, and like somebody who's helping you, pulling away from junctions, up hills, no wobbles.
Yeah, it's good.
So I love it.
I think it'll be a while before I can. Was it a lot?
Yeah.
Thousands.
It was. I did research, and it's a Ribble cycle. I'll send them a clip as well. Again, another unsponsored link. It's very attractive because they've put the battery inside the frame, so you can't. It doesn't really. It's not obviously an electric bicycle. Number one.
That's
£2,000 for basically 1,800 quid for a very lovely looking bicycle that works very well.
So these don't need to. So these just like charge from you pedaling.
No, mine's definitely. I have to plug it in.
Oh, really?
So maybe it's not the same as your. Maybe it's not power assisted. Mine's. I don't know the difference, but basically, no, I have to plug it in.
I kind of imagined it would be that principle of the Prius thing where it sort of saves up the energy from braking and then sort of puts it back in when you start up again.
I have been thinking about this whilst riding along, because it seems a bit silly that you do have to plug it in. But then I suppose, if you had when I was a child, I used to have a bicycle that had a dynamo that ran the lights.
I've ridden ones like that, yeah. They're sort of harder, if anything, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how you would I suppose if it was possible to charge as it went, then it would. But then I was thinking, because it was so sunny, surely I can ride around with like a solar panel on my head or something.
Surely.
On my hat. Surely there is a way to do this. So I don't have to remember to plug my bike in.
Well, good stuff. Electric bike. Anyway, sounds good.
Ribble cycles assembled in England.
I took my bike to the bike shop, which I bought in Berlin, and it says made in Italy, and it's got quite a sort of unique looking thing. It's got a slightly strange, unusual handlebar thing going on. And I take it to this shop in Portobello Road, and this guy goes, "Yeah, that's a rally. Yeah, what they've done here is taken the top off. Yeah, that was made in Nottingham." And I was like, "Fuck you." This is my bike that I bought in Germany. It was made in Italy and is very unique. And I brought it back to England. It wasn't made in Nottingham, you twat. And if it was, I don't like it anymore.
Oh dear.
I think there's a strong
work, isn't it?
I think there's a strong chance he was wrong, but still, I haven't really been riding it since. Because he's like, "Oh, what you've done there is you messed up the bearings, haven't you? You've messed them up." I'm like, "What? I haven't deliberately. What? Why are you talking to me like I've deliberately sabotaged myself?" "Oh yeah, we're gonna have to. Yeah, you really made a mess of that." I'm like, "Again, thank you." I did say, like, if what is this customer service? What am I dealing with? What are you saying? Why are you trying to make me feel bad about my bike? Well, I'm not trying to make you feel bad about it, but it's just, I don't like this. So,
is this an imaginary part of the conversation or a real part of the conversation?
I said that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What did he say?
Oh, that's what he said. He was like, "I'm not trying to." I was like, "Okay, well, just don't like this." Like.
Brilliant. I love it.
And then Sharon reminded me that was one of those mansplaining situations. I'm like, why? It's always in the bike shops I get mansplained at. I can't imagine if I had to deal with that all the time.
I've had some very amusing customer service for considering where I'm living. Croatia, not famous for its customer service. Because I go around to all the shops and I'm always very chatty and friendly.
Sounds a nightmare.
I go to the DIY shop and the lady, I was like, "Oh, hello, how are you? Haven't seen you." And then she was like, "Oh, what are you working on?" We had this nice little chat, and then I had to go again because obviously I'm in a constant DIY loop. And she said, "Oh, my colleague said to me the other day, how do you know that lady?" It's like, she just talks to me. I can't get rid of her. Anyway, not the funniest story I've ever told.
Well, I mean, it's a good insight in how to get to know people. How do you get to know people? Talking to them. Well, that's just too much. So I'm going to tell you the small thing that I saw this week. The other day I was coming down on my bike, topical, and on this road, and it was kind of a slow road, but I saw this sort of Prius coming out, and then I saw this other sort of big, I don't know, like a Jeep looking thing, maybe not that big, but sort of come in and just sort of slowly kind of go into the side of it a little bit. And then I was like, okay, this just happened right in front of me. I come down a bit. I see that there's a big sort of dent in the door. And I sort of like slow down to kind of go, "Oh God, have I got to just be part of this now?" And then I see the one guy get out of his car on one side and the other guy sort of like getting out of his car, and they're sort of standing like that. And they sort of walk towards each other, and the one that crashed into the other one just came over and gave him a big hug.
Really?
I was like, "What's happening?" And I couldn't. like, I was like, maybe they know each other, but that would be a weird coincidence. I think it was just, I just saw something strange and beautiful and unexpected.
Wow.
So then I was like, okay, well, I reckon they'll work this out themselves and they won't need any witnesses or legal representation. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah, that was one of those little unexpected moments.
What a beautiful little moment.
Nice thing, right?
That's a good story.
Yes.
Nice one.
The other one, I will just say, like, have you seen Searching?
No.
It's a film.
In what context? I don't know what it is.
It's a film. It's but it's all the action is on screens. So it's like it starts off with like a Windows desktop, and then sort of as the years go by, it's on like a Mac and different computer screens and phone screens and like security camera screens, and all these different things. And so the whole story is told, and it's this sort of like, a girl, without saying it, like a sort of teenage girl goes missing, and it's the sort of hunt, all this stuff, and this guy kind of working with a detective. But something that was quite cool is that the guy's work computer is running Ubuntu, so it was all of our work kind of forming the background of this. It had the dock, it had the Otto's window decoration.
That is a great story. I love this theme.
The Ubuntu font was on there. I was like, oh, there we go. Look at that. So it's actually it's a good film. Like the ending, I was a bit like, oh, okay, really? But the second time, I was like, no, I thought it was quite good. Because I watched it a second. Yeah, I rewatched it with Shaq. Because I watched it on the flight out to San Francisco, having recently heard about it. But then I watched it again this weekend with Shaz, and yeah, it was good. Good watch.
Okay, Searching.
Yes.
Oh, big news on our TV watching. I paid for Now TV so I could watch Game of Thrones, right? Yeah. Then we watched one episode, and I went to log in the next day, and the only series they've got left is the final series.
Why would they do this shit?
So I'm like, so Nick goes, oh, there you go, we've got an excuse now, we'd have to watch it.
Just going to have to use piracy at this stage.
Well, this is the thing about piracy. I mean, people shouldn't make it so fucking hard to do the legal thing.
Like, if the legal thing is easier, do the legal thing. Like Netflix, I'll keep that forever because they just keep coming up with stuff.
Yeah.
You try and nickel and dime me. I've been watching Stath Lets Flats on the on the Channel 4 thing, which is only made bearable by the fact that it's now linked into the Apple TV app. But you go into it, and the ads are just relentless.
Yeah.
Like 4 adverts and then a sponsorship skit and then 10 minutes of content and then another 6 adverts and another and you're like, I will give you money for you not to do this. And the Channel 4 app, it used to not allow you to stream to an Apple TV. It just, you had to watch it on your phone, or it's like, come on. Anyway, we are really sidetracking today, aren't we? Oh yeah, it was my birthday this week as well. So
it was your birthday. I remembered to say happy birthday, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Thank God for that.
And Sharon got me this Grayson Perry book, The Descent of Man, which I'm finding quite interesting and also quite short, which is lovely. But as I was watching this, I was watching Stath Lets Flats, and I had a little moment of analysis on this thing. So Stath Lets Flats, I'm going to keep saying it, even though it's a weird title. And this, it's kind of like a sort of Greek family estate agents kind of thing. And our sort of central protagonist is a bit of a kind of Ricky Gervais, not Ricky Gervais style, but it's kind of in the vein of The Office, that this person is so kind of like thoughtless and a bit stupid that it's, from thence the comedy arises. But I was sort of confused for a little bit about this one character who's like, everything, whenever he'd say something, all the other ones were like, oh, you're so funny. It's just so brilliant just talking to you. And then I didn't quite get it at first because his jokes were quite weak. And then I was like, oh, it's because he's English. He's the English one. So we're seeing this, what would usually be the default, actor, the default type of character in anything, like white, male, English, vaguely posh accent, reframed as the exception, reframed as the sort of minority in this situation, so that then you're able to expose the privilege that just having those attributes gives you. So he's sort of like this slightly wet character, but he's like everyone. The sort of the other characters just love everything he says, just because of he's just white male privilege. And I thought it was a subtle and clever way of doing something like that in a story.
I haven't watched that at all.
It's a little weird little show. It's fine. It's quite funny, but because Grayson Perry in his book talks about default man as being like this idea that. Well, he sort of says there's this tribe in Canary Wharf, with these sort of phallic buildings coming up, and you sort of go to a certain area of London, you find this tribe there, and it's these kind of like the default male man in a generic suit that sort of controls everything and treats themselves as that basically their preferences control the rest of our experience for some reason. And he calls it default man because it's like that's supposed to be the baseline from which everything is measured for some reason, but also because default means that you default on a debt, like you're just not really paying your way because of this sort of position you've found yourself in. But anyway, I'm reading through it and I'm just finding it a good lens to look at things through. And then thinking about remembering that I sort of, even though I wouldn't want to be part of that world, it was kind of a step for me to be able to prove to myself that I could be if I wanted to be.
Right.
So when I worked in Canary Wharf on a couple of different contracts I had that I was in those buildings, and I was like, okay, now I've proved to myself that I could work on this high floor in this tower, and I know that I definitely would never want to. And so if someone goes, well, you can get the job, you need a first from whatever, like to even get through the door, I'd be like, well, I've been in that building. But, it's still, they shouldn't really be setting all the decisions, should they? You know this.
Well, one of the things that I liked about the quote that you sent me yesterday, whenever it was,
yes,
was the thing where he said the default. The other reason he liked that word default man was because it implied no active choice.
Yeah.
No active, like it's just how they've turned out without making any effort to sort of, critically analyse their choices or make, evaluate them in any way. It's just like, well, we want to go to strip clubs after work. We want to drink lots of expensive booze and have expensive lunches, and this is what we want to do. I know a few women who've worked at Canary Wharf in those kind of organisations. It's just like, quite obviously relentless, some of the sort of the default man behaviour. So yeah, it's not somewhere I've ventured.
You're better off. It's tedious.
Yeah, I'm not. But I think, but in that vein, it reminded me when you sent me that there's the woman called, as a journalist, I think, called Caroline Criado Perez. She's the woman that did the Everyday Sexism Project and got a campaign for a woman to appear on the £10 note.
Right.
But she's written a book called Invisible Women, and she talks about things like how data is used to make choices that are very geared towards men in the world. So women are more likely to die of heart attacks, not because of any treatment, but because they are... the symptoms of a heart attack in a woman are not necessarily the same as the symptoms of a heart attack in a man. So we're all taught the male symptoms, but for a woman having a heart attack, like nausea might be one of the default symptoms. Yeah. And because we're not educated, we know, and we're not, as a society, we're educated, pain in your left arm, chest pains, this kind of shortness of breath, and those symptoms might not be what. So there's that kind of the general bias against, or the sort of defaulting to male data means that women just get excluded. Same with crash test dummies. The dummies are modelled on the male anatomy. So there's all sorts of weird things where there's just like that you wouldn't think of.
Yeah, well, there was that picture that went around of a female musculature, and you realise that you've never seen that.
No.
Because whenever they show you a skeleton, they show you like a male skeleton. But what you were saying, that I just was, there's a couple of things that come out of that. We're just going to like follow where it goes, follow the chat where it goes, I think. But I was just saying, like, I think if men had to do, like, men would never undergo a smear test. Right, we would invent some sort of laser beam, non-invasive procedure, I reckon. Like, if men had to do, I think women are still being treated. I think it's a form of control and domination of men over women to make you undergo these invasive. It's for your health. It's like treating you like a horse. Like, we're just going to put this thing in you, and just to check that you're healthy. And I just think men would not do that. We would not accept that. We would come up with some sort of like body scanner laser beam technique that meant, or some like pill that you take.
Well, I'm not bothered about the only thing that I find that is similar, isn't it, when you get a prostate examination, but then you don't have those for as many years.
I'm sure they're working on it.
Do you? But then again, somebody only sticks their finger up your bum. They don't do anything more invasive. There's no contraption. This is my medical definition of what happens in a prostate exam.
All right. So yes.
How to make a hard decision. How to make a hard decision.
How to switch
on your podcast.
So I'm just in an ambling mode, so I don't care.
You are.
Let's get to the subject. Right.
Okay, let's do it.
How to make up. So I made a leap this week, and it's something I've sort of been talking about for a little while, but I decided it's time to quit contracting. And what that means is, like, contracting, you make a lot of money doing it. So my cycle is make lots of money contracting until I get burnt out by a job, and then work on my own stuff for a while, and then run out of money, and then have to go back into contracting again to get money. But it's this thing of the contrast between working and not working is so extreme that I am starting to see it like a sort of drug addiction, where the contracting is this high where you're like, I could do anything. I've got the money. I'm going to get a taxi everywhere, and I'm going to shop in Whole Foods every day. I'm going to buy all the gadgets and objects. And then but the come down is that you've got to work and on stuff that maybe isn't what you want to be working on, like really hard. And then that burns you out. Because, like, the trouble is, I think the level of meaning you're likely to get from your work, the way the system works at the moment, seems inversely proportional to how much you're going to get paid. The trouble is, when you're not working, you've always got this idea in the back of your mind that, this is like half a day's work, and I wouldn't be worried about this anymore. But the reason I've said, right, no, I've got to quit is because I don't want to be looking at things like that anymore. I want to earn money in a sustainable way, doing things that have some meaning for me and that I can sort of like steer a bit. And the thing that gives me confidence to do that is that I've sort of saved up enough to feel like I can have a few months and not have to work. And also just seeing that my apps, with no supervision, are selling maybe a tenth of what they need to. Now that I cut all my costs down, if I can just 10x, 15, 20x how many apps I'm selling, then I'm kind of sorted. Might not be any big holidays, but like I can survive.
Do we have to cheer you now? Yeah, well done, my God.
So it's nice and scary. It's a scary situation I'm jumping into. But yeah, I think for me, like, I've quit a lot of addictive things in my time, and I am an advocate of cold turkey. And yeah, I sort of was playing with this app, I Am Sober, this week, that I saw one of the drag queens using on Instagram, and I quite liked that it had when you add a new, it's like add new addiction. What are you getting sober from? Alcohol and cigarettes, alcohol and cocaine, alcohol and drugs, alcohol and ecstasy, alcohol and heroin, alcohol and marijuana, alcohol and meth, alcohol and pills, alcohol and tobacco, beer, booze, bourbon, bread, caffeine, cocaine, cookies, eating disorder, ecstasy, gambling, gin, gluten, heroin, junk food, marijuana, meat and dairy, meth, opiates, pills, pornography, rum, self-harm, sex, social media, sweets, tequila, tobacco, vodka, whiskey, wine. And that is your menu of...
Sounds like, for some people, it sounds like some sort of like a
bucket list
shopping list. What should I do
weekend.
tonight? I know, I'm going to try.
But yeah, I thought like I'm going to get sober from contracting, because just seeing it through that lens, it's like, yeah, it sort of makes sense. It's these highs and lows and these sort of burnouts, and sort of like you pay the price one way or another. Like you don't get something for nothing. And I feel like what contracting does to me, even if it's a thing I believe in, I don't think it's healthy. And I need something that fits in with the way I am a bit more.
Very good. Well done. Especially after our conversation the other day about like, you know, buying less means that you can work less type thing.
Yeah.
There is definitely you know, you've got to, and I was talking to somebody here the other day and she was saying, you know, she feels a bit, she's like stopped, they've come here from Germany. They're a bit younger than us, kids about the same age. And they're like, I feel a bit bad. I've stopped sending pictures of what we do here to my friends back in Germany because I feel like I'm rubbing their face in it. And then she went, but then everybody could make this choice to not be all, you know, full on 5 days a week, nursery, drop off, pick up, get to work, commute, bye. You know, it's like I think if you set your expenses, then you do have a few more options in the freedom bank. So
to make this decision, like this has been a few years coming of cost cutting and just trying to figure out how to reduce my, you know, things like rent and all those things that you just feel trapped by. And because the trouble is, if you're contracting and then you're choosing a flat, you're kind of choosing one that you can support by contracting.
That befits your position as a contractor. Yeah,
and definitely you would definitely overpay for that in London as well. So sort of getting off that kind of merry-go-round has been really useful. And I think the ways that I have, you know, I think because I do want to talk about how to kind of come to a hard decision. So, what is a hard decision?
Well, I think the other what we were talking about earlier about the sort of decision plus action. So I've now decided that I need to not be a member of the Labour Party. I know I shouldn't be a member of the Labour Party, but I haven't actually done it. I'm still a member of the Labour Party and my reasons for not being are quite clear to me. I feel like right now, the time massively, we need to support green politics over everything. And so the current system doesn't work. We need some changes. We need to stop talking in terms of tribal allegiances and start talking about the actual ways we want to live our lives and what's important to us. I've got this, but who I am is part defined by my socialist leanings, and having come to the decision of joining the Labour Party, coming to the decision of unjoining the Labour Party is quite hard.
A lot of people are very good at making a decision and never getting around to acting on it, which is maybe as much a part of this as anything. But yeah, like it's sometimes if you want something to change, you've got to we've talked about this, you've got to let the old thing die. So your Labour Party thing is the thing that if you're serious about this, you have to just let it die.
Yeah, but it reminds me very much of a something one of my friends told me when I was very early 20s, you know, freshish out of university, living with a boyfriend, and it wasn't going well, and it was time for it to end, and I was like, I've really got to do this. And then I was talking to my friend and he just said, you can't really book in a time when you're going to end a relationship. You have this, you sort of come to it settles in your brain as what needs to happen. And then you have to wait for it to happen almost, like you have to let it happen rather than you can't go, right, okay, now that I've decided, next Wednesday I'm going to cook us a delicious dinner and break up. But you know, sort of, so it's like
this is the
It's like so, knowing that contracting isn't how you want to live your life, knowing that the Labour Party doesn't really represent what I think matters, or isn't really, it's just not doing the best for the country, I think. But then there's all these things of like, that whole, the thing we've talked about 1,000 times, which is my inability to, I just want to fight until something works. I want to make it better. I want to fix it. And, I think in this instance, actually leaving, if enough people leave, that makes a loud enough message.
Yeah, and there's two things that force you eventually to make a decision. One is because you can try and sort of, I think it's something I've learned over time is that it's better if I bite the bullet and make the decision sooner before it just turns into just a fight, that because I've got all this, I'm sort of like halfway out the door, but my employer doesn't know this yet, and then the next time they talk shit at me, I just snap, and then it just turns into this whole ugly sort of breakup. I think it's important to sort of be able to anticipate the way things are going and be able to sort of like make the decision before it gets really terrible. Because the reason you're making the decision is because it's, so you can tell something's not working. And so I don't know what the equivalent of that is for the Labour Party.
No, I don't know. I was thinking
nothing's really going to force you to do it.
No, but I feel like a splitter.
Right?
I feel like a kind of. But what you were saying about once you've decided to leave a job, you really should do it sooner rather than later. Like you said, that scenario of you're leaving, but your employer doesn't know. Yeah, it's the same in a relationship. It's the same in like the other person doesn't know that you've decided that there's no hope, or that you've come to the realization that there's no. Maybe that's the trouble with the word decision. The word decision in itself implies some sort of action, but the realization is a more passive equivalent to that. I've realised this is not right. And for me, leaving the Labour Party isn't actually necessarily per se, and I've not really thought about this in these terms before, about leaving the Labour Party. It's about the fact that I don't think this current tribal nonsense is actually what we need. And actually, it's not a choice of the Labour Party or the Green Party. It's a choice of, I want to be able to vote on the policies that matter to me. And I don't really care about being in it. I'm quite happy supporting Extinction Rebellion, and in kind of changing the current structure sufficiently to change the world than I am in sending a £5 a month to the Labour Party for them to sit around in their little farmhouse up there in London being a bunch of dicks.
One thing I use is, I have a day in my calendar called Change Day, which is when I've got something bubbling up, I'll kind of use having that day in my calendar as let's make a decision on that and let's act on it. And that's the day that I decide, when I decided to move to Berlin, and that was a tough decision to make. But when the planets are in alignment, you sort of have to be a bit metaphysical about it. You have to be a little bit sort of superstitious about things sometimes, and just look for the signs, and just kind of use that to buoy you up. Because something that happened this week was I was going to save this for the end. Just a big thank you to my aunt for donating a nice little bit of cash to us because she loves the podcast. Thank you, Annette, so much.
Thank you very much
for doing that. But that to me was a signal that things are moving in the right direction, and I take that and I put that in my superstitious signs bag. It's a one-off, but it's there's a little bit of cash there that I'm just going to take as the direction the universe is taking me. I know in reality it's not actually different, but like this is okay. So I'm gonna this particular decision, rather than doing on the change day, I was like, well, it's my birthday, so I'm gonna do it on my birthday. I think it's good to sort of use those little calendar spikes and sort of mysterious metaphysical or coincidences to sort of like help you make those decisions. So yeah, you have to be sure, and I think you have to know yourself well enough to know what the cost of inaction is as well.
Yes.
So like, again, in a job, in a relationship, the cost of inaction is a more unpleasant. So if you don't, it's like, not making a decision is making a decision at a certain point as well.
Not making a decision is a way of keeping, I think it's kind of a way of keeping your baggage alive. It's like you've got this constant excuse as well. It's like, oh, well, I can't possibly do that thing because I've got this other thing that I'm still not dealing with properly. I mean, I like, there's some things I really loathe to do, like sort out important life documents. The ongoing saga of my child's citizenship of Croatia. And it's like just making on the subject, I think you raised in the intro the idea of procrastination. It's like I've done a big step and they didn't do everything they said they were going to do. So it's like that. My insides sigh even before I pick up the phone to find out what the next step is, because it's like, God, it's going to be really bad.
I think it's that, and it's literally, it's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of, okay, I've got to make this a priority now. Like, it's easy to make, like, as hard as it is to make a decision, it's also much easier to make a decision than to actually act on it. And it's all very well saying, oh, well, I'm thinking about doing this. Oh, I'm planning on doing this. If you don't make that a priority and it's a bit difficult, you're just going to put it off. And especially if it's something that isn't like a real crunch point thing. Like, I have this thing of I've got to sell my laptop and a few bits and pieces, but just listing things is such a ball ache, and I cannot for the life of me make it a priority.
No.
I just can't get round to it. But I know it's something I decided to do ages ago, like over a year ago in the laptop situation. And the longer I leave it, like the less I'm going to be able to sell it for. But because, contracting means, you don't feel the pressure of the value you'll get from selling it as much as you just can't be bothered to do it. It then has to be a conscious, I'm going to just put this at the top of my to-do list for today and bloody do it. Like your tax return. Yeah. Now I do my tax returns when I get the first email.
Yeah, but I was thinking this morning about the fact that this life documentation, I do my taxes. I once I was really slack with my company's house return, and I got put in the Gazette of a company that was going to be dissolved or something because I hadn't filled in, and that's the language.
Oh, God.
So it's like, because I didn't return, oh no. And then, so it's like, okay, I realise, I understand, this is serious, I'll have to do it. And I mean, it seems a bit antiquated to me, but there you go. And then
it is.
And the tax thing I do, obviously. But even then, on the subject of being a consultant and having that sort of freelancer fees, I mean, I don't really have that sort of like taking taxis everywhere thing anymore, because I don't work enough days when I do contract. But I definitely recognise that, hey, I'm making X amount a day. Of course, let's go out for lunch. I'm going to buy myself some dinner on the way home. No, let's meet up for cocktails. I'll get a cab there. Of course, because you're doing that like, this is how much I've made today. And actually, it's very hard to reprogram your brain to go, actually, that's got to last me for X days or X months. This is why
I keep looking at my visualization of the long tail of like, okay, I'm trying to internalize what that amount of money means in terms of time. that I don't have to do stuff I don't want to do and try and like remember how much more important that is to me than buying another, I don't know what the hell, buying a drone.
Is that what you need, a drone?
This episode is a bit light on advice given the title, but we do need to wrap it up.
Yes, we do. Gosh.
But I think we covered a few things, and maybe we can come back to it or just report back. I think it was a good chat. Hopefully it's audible. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
If you like the podcast, go to grandpodcast.com and subscribe, or go and subscribe in the app that maybe you just listen to this one episode so you get the next one, and give us another chance. Keep giving us chances and we'll try not to let you down. Where can people find you, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter.
Cool. You can find me at michaelforrestmusic.com or youtube.com/user/Michael Forrest. I just released a new YouTube video this week about a modular synth module. So if you're, I think it's a very small chance that you are interested in that sort of thing. But I think it's a fun video anyway. Just share it, even if you don't like it. That's what we're trying to say.
Come on.
Share our stuff. What's it? Right.
That's what being a friend in this modern time means. Just sharing and liking shit you don't actually like.
Yeah, be a friend. Come on.
Come on, man.
You can come and support us on Patreon at patreon.com. Be our second supporter on Patreon. Patreon.com/grandpodcast. As I said, my Aunt Annette gave us a donation. So we've more or less got our hosting costs covered, which feels like a wonderful precedent. So, it's clearly worth something to someone. So there's social proof. Come on. Social proof that we're worth $1, $3 a month. Come on. Like, we put a lot of work into this, a lot of billable hours, as I said earlier. Hundreds of pounds of billable hours go into this every month. So, come on. You can give us a buck.
The other thing that would I'm not going down the yes, Patreon, please, that would be nice. But also write us some reviews, please, because that's how people find out how amazing we are. Because if you look at all the featured things, they're always by people that are already famous.
Yes.
Featured podcasts. We're not famous, we're just people. So if you could write us some reviews, do some stars for every episode, occasional bit of writing, whatever platform you listen on, tell your friends, even if you share it with somebody, go, look, it's not my cup of tea, but it might be yours. That's also cool. So yeah, share, please. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, well, we'll see you next week anyway, hopefully.
Yes, we will.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.